So we're super happy today to be listening to Didem Uguz, who is the Experience Design Director at H&M, based in Sweden. And she is going to share with us their accessibility journey, so how they are advancing accessibility in a super big organization like H&M globally, and really focusing on e-commerce, of course. So it is actually a coincidence that Evis was testing H&M and using that as a platform to test, and now we can hear about the actual work. It sounds like we kind of set this up. That wasn't the case, but we're extremely happy to have Didem with us today and to teach us about what H&M have done so far, the best practices we can learn, and what they are still doing moving forward. So please, Didem.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that introduction. Hello, everyone. And I just want to say it was such a cool coincidence, right? Thank you for that. I mean, I think it will help my storytelling. So now you have the background on why it is as it is. And I have a lot of animations. I'm so sorry. My presentation is a lot of animations. Don't look at it. Okay, you can go to the, no. But yes, so I'm really excited to be here. And I want to take you on a journey. I want to take you on a journey on how we got better or advanced accessibility at H&M in our journey of progress. My name is Didem Uguz, as Sanna said, and I work as an Experience Design Director. I've been working within the UX UI field for approximately 10 years now, and I've been working with different kinds of products, mainly digital products. So e-commerce, also store products, the self-checkout, the tills that the sales advisors work with. It's different kind of products, but there's always been one topic at school and in my work life that's been close to my heart, and that is accessibility. And that's why I'm also really happy that I'm able to work within this topic at H&M. And you guys have heard about H&M, I think so. You have a sock or a t-shirt or something from the store. But just a quick recap. So we're quite big. It's a fashion and design company, and we have approximately 140,000 employees worldwide from around 170 nationalities. So it's not huge. It's very, very big. And we are live digitally in 75 markets. So we got a bit nervous when we talked about the fines, you know, like how. Joking aside, we have 4,000 stores, and but something that's really important for us is inclusion and diversity. It's in our so-called DNA, and it's the way we design our clothes, but also we want to take it to another level. It's in our digital products. So today, I am going to guide you through a journey towards accessibility in a very, very big company. And to be honest, guys, we started with no formal process. It was nothing in place. So some teams were doing something, other teams were doing something else. There was no centralized way of doing things. And one day, so I worked as a designer back then, hands-on designer. There was whispers around the community regarding accessibility. Some of us were really interested and passionate about the topic, but we didn't have a forum where we could just get together and talk, exchange ideas, talk about education, WCAG, principles, how we can improve. There was nothing. So 3 or 4 of us designers in the back in the days, were like, okay, let's create a team. Let's sit together. Let's talk about this more. So that's what we did. We created a circle. It's actually another way for a team. So 4 of us were sitting together and we were starting to talk about why don't we have any processes? How can we promote more accessibility in the company and so forth? We were just getting more and more excited, just 4 of us. So we started a movement. We didn't know back then, but we started something small. We started a movement, but we lacked mandate. Jaha. But with time, many other within the company heard about our team, and they also were interested on the topic accessibility. So in time, more and more people started to join us. And as you saw, our circle just became larger and larger. So in this team, or AKA circle, we had designers, Okay. And then developers wanted to join. They were like, hey, think of it, Evis. I mean, she's amazing. Think of Evis developer wanted to join. They were like, we like this topic as well. We also want to improve. So they joined our circle. And then we have had leadership joining. They were like, you know what? We also want to be a part of this. Maybe we can help from the forums we're sitting in. And we also had engineering managers joining. We were like, wow, okay, it's not just design leadership. We have engineers as well. So with that said, we created the accessibility circle. And one of the values we had in this team working together was that we encourage and help each other to win together. That's the only way we're going to do anything, improve anything. It's that we have this mindset. Okay, so we have a team now. We're still not big. We're quite still. However, we have different roles, cross-functional. We're like, we need to set up some goals. We need to make this a bit more clear. So what is our purpose with this circle? What do we want to do? One thing we want to do is that we hope that we could educate teams on why accessibility matters beyond just being compliant. It's not about being scared about fines. It's about making our products better. We also wanted to add accessibility in everything we do. So it's not something we need to clean up at the end. So involve it in the design process, development process, the testing process. It needs to be there at the beginning. And we also wanted to help on developing tools that we already have, guidelines, make them even clearer and better, and want to also create trainings where other colleagues could just take a training and learn more about how to be more accessible in their mindset and everything they do. But most foremostly, we wanted to be the help people could rely on. And you know, I'm one chat away, I'm one call away. If you have any questions, please get back to me and I'll help you. We want to be that kind of a team, that kind of a circle. Okay, so we had our goals set up. Cool. However, I mean, we were still a small team. We had passion, but still we had no ownership. So we were like, okay, what happens now? Because at this stage, the accessibility circle still remained as a side project. So we didn't have regular forums set up. It was still a bit, just a fun thing. And, we had all of the other projects going on. And I just want to show you. So as I told you, we're a big company. So there is the circle, and there is also a lot more circles. Think of these circles being like 500, but I don't want to scare you guys. So we have the circle there, and then we have the tech organization where you have developers, you have IT project managers, and then you have sales, which is commercial and strategy. And there you have designers. So the circle, we're sitting both, had competences from tech and sales. Okay? And this is good because we had people in different areas that could, inform everyone else about the problems that were happening in the organizations. We were not working in silos. That's the only thing I want you to understand from this slide, which was really good. And we also had some input from our brand teams, which was also great. Okay, cool. So we had our team. We are just getting a bit bigger. We have our goals. We're cross-functional. We're not working in silos. But we need to find some leverage. We need to take this further. We need people to listen. This is not just something fun that we do. It's really fun, but that's not the only purpose with this. We want to drive change. We couldn't move on passion alone. We needed leverage. I love that sentence. So we started with something many of you guys speakers have been talking about. We started scaring people. I feel that's the first thing you do when it comes to legal stuff. It's like, oh, do you know there's fines if you don't do this? So that's exactly what we did. We started to talk about legal risks. We started to talk about many stakeholders up, like really high leadership, low, like in different levels. But it didn't work because we were not that knowledgeable. So, I mean, if you want to scare people with this topic, you also need to have that knowledge in the correct way. Otherwise, it's like, okay, what do you mean with that risk? Well, I mean, I heard about it didn't work. So, okay, but we need to switch. Let's use accessibility as a revenue driver. It actually is, guys. So if you have products that becomes more accessible, more of our fantastic customers could use that product, aka shop, and that will, give more revenue as well. But the thing is, it really didn't budge because back then we didn't have the knowledge we have today, and communication style and the forms we're in, in hindsight, were not the best approach. However, we had a big learning back at this stage is that it was no longer a design problem. This is actually a business problem. So we were making progress, but it was still moving slowly. And then something happened. The European Accessibility Act. Yay! Yay. Okay, so we started to hear whispers again. Okay. We're like, okay, what is this? What's going on? I know that this has been a thing since 2015 and it's just becoming more clear. But let's face it, people are talking about it more now than ever. So we heard whispers and then light bulb. Okay, can we jump on the IAAP train and use this as the topic of leverage? Because now we have something more clear to go on. It's Europe, so it's a lot of countries as well. However, the core team, the circle, we were becoming larger. We're approximately 15 here now. We knew that all 15 couldn't be in the same forums and same meetings. It would be just so ineffective. We needed to find 3 people in different areas that could drive this different way. Driving the Accessibility Act in a different way, using that as the engine. But we needed to find a few people within the circle and outside that could drive this more effectively, as 15 people couldn't do that in the same way. We were too many. So we were not calling these people the enablers, but when I did the presentation, it sounded cool. Okay, so we're calling them the enablers. The enablers consist of 3 people from 3 different areas. So we have 1 engineer manager, we have 1 from design leadership, so a director, experienced design director, and we have 1 product manager. So again, 3 different areas. And the goals with the enablers were to advocate, get a seat at the table, and talk about the Accessibility Act. Talk about, again, the risks when it comes to fines, commercial, brand reputation, but also the good side of it. We're just getting better. We will get more customers, etc., etc. Again, guys, we were doing things connected to accessibility, but we knew that we weren't good enough. So we were using, these 3 people were using the Accessibility Act to get accessibility more prioritized. It was intense. It was really intense. Oh, wow. So it was a lot of meetings, a lot of stakeholders trying to be in different forums, chasing and so forth. But we actually made progress. And not yet. So one of the things we wanted to really do was that we wanted to do an audit. We wanted to do an audit. And that's because we wanted to get a baseline. How good or bad is it? We wanted to get a baseline, and we wanted to do it with the help of an external company. And that was one of the goals. Again, just to see how we're doing. And there's other reasons as well, which I will go into sooner. So something happened. We performed our, not first, but first in a long time, really detailed, professional help from specialized people audits. This is just dummy data, guys, but it looks something like this, a huge Excel file. So we did it for 1 market that had the new brand identity. So if you look at the H&M app, it will look a bit different because we just launched just like a few months ago, our new brand identity. And we wanted to do the audit in 1 country that had a new brand identity, and we wanted to do it for web and app. And we did. We got the green light and we did it. And with this, what we also wanted to do is that we wanted to connect every issue to the correct team so they can get the ball rolling. And why we wanted to do that is because, why we wanted to do that because we wanted clarity and structure. When you are in a large organization and you have a lot of other projects going on, in your team, to get the ball rolling, you need to have clarity. You need to understand exactly what you can do. So with this audit, everything was connected to the team, and they got the green light to actually start working on it. I wish I would go into a bit more detail soon, but these were just some things that they found. I just want to show you guys. So here you have the desktop version, and here's a belt. And let's say you wanna add it to your cart, but you don't select the size first. You just click on add. Then you get this error message. Please select the size. For instance, it's an example, and the please select the size for, if you're colorblind, you'll maybe not notice the red, for instance. And therefore here we maybe need a connecting icon, or we need to not just use color alone to convey information. So it was stuff like this that was found in the audit. And also we have a lot of information in our customer service pages. So we also wanted to, so some things that were found is that we have a lot of text that says here, the link name is here. But also when it comes to screen readers and us being more descriptive, this is not enough. So we need to actually state what here means. And that in this case is by visiting our return policy page. So you're landing on the return policy page. So what I'm trying to say, guys, is that the issues found, many of them were not complex things. And that's, I would say kind of with confidence, that's like in all companies or digital products, it's the small things that give most of the headache. But to be honest, it's the easiest things to fix. This took maybe 5 to 10 minutes, even that. So the majority were small things, but of course we had bigger things as well. There was a long list. And so the enablers got their audit done. Cool, for one country, 3 touch points. So we wanted to really get the ball. Okay, we have the audit, but we need to get it fixed now. So what can we do now? Because again, as I stated before, clarity and structure is equal to empowered teams. If we were to just say to the teams working with this product, WCAG 2.1, go about it, you run. They would be like, what are you talking about? Why is this website so hard to read? What is these hard words? But now when we have an audit, where we have identified issues and connecting it to your team, you as a product manager will be like, okay, these 5 things I need to fix. So we were trying to be a bit smart with our communication to not scare people off. Everyone has their large backlog. And especially if you're a product manager or designer, you're like, oh, more things to do. Oh, no. So we wanted not to scare people off. So, okay, so the audit result, we informed people. But then we were like, okay, that's not enough. You can't just fix something once and then it's good to go. No. It doesn't work like that. So we also created checklists that they needed to check for each touch point. And if I had more time, guys, I would go through them. I don't think I have, so we can maybe talk later if you want to know more about it. But it's for app, iOS, Android, and web. They got checklists that you need to go through for each touch point after they fix the audit results, because it's not enough to fix the issues found once in one audit. And after that, they could rely on some of the tools and the documentation we from the Circle, I'm going too fast, Circle created. And that I will go into in a second as well. But I mean, okay, so you know what happened, guys? We actually start to see stories up in Teams backlogs. And that was like a moment like, damn, stuff is happening. So it's PI planning. We start to see stories popping up. Oh, this team, accessibility fix, contrast, touch size. We were seeing all of these stories and we were like, okay, the ball is rolling. What is going on? But it was really fun to see. And I mean, it was really a like wow moment, to be honest, guys. It's a small thing maybe for you guys, but it was like a wow moment in that sense. So we were really happy. So the enablers had done a tremendous work here. But let's not forget about the Accessibility Circle. They were also in the game, but they were just doing different stuff. So the people working in the circle were still working on stuff, but they were working more on creating documentation and then also creating a checklist. So accessibility should be in everything we do, right? In development cycles, design cycles, QAs. It needs to be embedded. So what we did is that we are currently working on a checklist. So if you as a designer, you have your wireframe, you should have the checklist next to it. And as you're designing, you have the checklist and you'll be like, okay, does the design I have, do I use color to just convey information? No, check. Does the contrast ratio, is it at least 4.5.1? Oh, let's use a tool to check. Oh, it is. Check, and so forth. So we created a checklist for designers to not make them think. I got a good segue to your presentation, yeah. And to make it more easy for them as well, because let's face it, guys, this just adds complexity. It does. So we're soon launching that checklist. We usability tested on some people. It was great. So we're soon launching it. But also we also are creating documentation on our Confluence page because we want to also make the WCAG principles easier to understand. And also adding do's and don'ts. Not a lot of text, but more like pictures. And here it's about, again, use of color, for instance. We also have a Teams channel where we encourage, we support each other, we are there for each other high and low, because at this stage right now, the accessibility circle is more formal than ever. Now we have regular meetups. We have more, leadership has more of an understanding of us. And we have forums also, a QA forum where we invited a lot of people that they could just join if they have any questions. So we're actually becoming a formal, I wouldn't say established organizational team, no, but we are more formal than ever. And again, I have a lot of people from the team watching this talk. Just a big shout out to you guys. You're amazing. So I just want to say that communication is key when it comes to stuff. So we have team channels and meetings regularly. So we have done a lot of things. This is just a few of them. And we, at this current stage, we just want to fix things from the audit. We want to continue doing the checklist, and then we want to launch the tools and continue on the work of embedding this onto everything that we do. Okay. So the journey is ongoing. We have built a kind of foundation, but let's face it, guys, accessibility is never done. It's never done. So we will continue in the way we do. We will continue to talk about, advocate, add it to the wireframes and to the development cycles more, hopefully more than ever. And we will always try to advocate it, the importance, not just from a customer perspective, but also from a business perspective. So we're not perfect, guys. And you saw it from the demo, but I feel like we're on the right track, at least. We're not just waking up, at least. So that is a really good feeling. And Alex is here, and he was a part of the enablers. So he did a tremendous job with the product managers of driving this forward as well. So a big thank you to you. And I mean, just the tips, like how can you start? If you're a big company, if you're in a big company or you're alone, use the same framework. Like it starts small. Just, do you have anyone that's also interested like you, has some kind of motivation? Join forces. And I know it's hard because it's nothing formal and this is something you will drive on the sidelines and so forth, but it's so worth it. And this is so important. Maybe you need to do it. Maybe you really need to do it. You can be the change you can be the small change in the large context, and you can drive impact in such a big level. So start small, think big, join forces, and collaborate across teams. You need different people with different knowledge. You can't do this at just one designer. You need collaborate with different areas and stay motivated, put focus on consistent effort. Even in times where no one has been talking about in weeks, have a new meeting. Guys, do you remember the other one? Just recap. So don't give up in that sense. Thank you for listening. Thank you. Yes. Do we have time for questions?
Yes, we have loads of questions. So thank you. Thank you very much. So the first question is, did any of your enablers have experience of disability?
I can speak for the engineer manager. I'm not sure. And myself. So is that a question? Like if we had anyone in the and that was maybe...
Actually, it was on the enablers, but I guess you can respond in a broader sense if you like.
Yeah, I mean, I was also part of enablers, not from my side either. Alex, do you? No. So no, it was more about, we have had a lot of, you hear stuff, to be honest, easy as that. And you look at the articles, the videos and so forth. And I mean, to be honest, guys, a disability isn't... If I break my arm, like it's the same thing. If I'm becoming a mom, I will not be able to, go anywhere in the same way. So I think maybe yes, in that sense, but no in the other sense. So no. Yeah.
Okay. Yes and no.
Yes.
So that leads to the other question. Yeah. Did you do testing, or do you do testing with real users?
Super good question.
For accessibility?
We're on it. We want to plan for it. We have done it, but it was a long time ago. Our brand identity has changed, navigation changed, so we need to do it once more. So that is on the top, on the agenda, something we want to do.
Okay. And how did you incorporate accessibility in your work as a designer at H&M back then? So I think that's when you started this journey. What was the starting point, and what did the design process look like at that time?
I mean, at that time, to be honest, guys, the people that were embedding accessibility, I'm talking about designers now, in their work were the people that was thinking about it. So maybe more motivated, and that didn't have clear processes in the design process on how you embed accessibility. That's something we're trying to do more and more now as a designer. For instance, with that checklist, you need to check that before you give your designs to the developer. It needs to be done. So that is something we are having more clear now in the process that we had, that we didn't have before.
Okay. So I'm just reading from the Q&A. Do we have any questions in the room? Yes. Do we have a microphone carrier somewhere? Yes. And we have a question there. Please state your name.
Hi, Hanna here. Hanna Adolfsson. Good speak. Thank you very much for that. You talked about the checklists. Mm-hmm. And that's to help the developers and UX designers. And is it different from different kind of perspective? Is the same? Do you have a list for leadership, for the round table? That's one question. And the other one is, do you have is it definition of done? Is accessibility a definition of done? If you think about the agile part.
Really good question. So the first one, do anyone else have a checklist? No. No. So that's why, I mean, that's why we for designers, for instance, we're trying to make it as easy as possible, that it's not something that they need to remember, but they need to use a tool for having a definition of done. Because you can have it in a Jira, you can have it like, oh, we have this as a principle, accessibility is important for us. But we wanted to have some kind of tool that made it super clear that if you check all of these, even if they're clear or not, you actually did your work as a designer to the developer. So it could be, for instance, that the click size is not according to AA. But for some reason you're in a situation where it still needs to be like that, then that's something you could talk. I mean, it enables you to add that as a comment and have that as a discussion with the developer. So, yeah, I hope that answered.
So kind of aligned to that is, isn't a checklist huge for the designers? How do you make sure that they are actually aligned with it?
Really good question. Yeah, I mean, when we first did it, it was like, 14, 15, 20 points. So we're trying to, I have a quote I always use. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Mm. So if we launch this with like 15 steps they need to check, or 20 or 30, we will scare them off. So we're starting really small with 5, approximately 5 or 3, I think it was. But of course, I mean, it's not enough. You need to check more things. But we're using this as an iterative process because maybe a checklist isn't the answer either. Maybe it's another tool. So yes, there will be more added if we continue working it with a checklist, but we just want to start small with a few ones just to get the muscle. I mean, the muscle is ongoing, but just to get it in the process without frightening anyone or making it harder than it should be.
Stepwise is the key word here.
Yes.
Do we have another question in the chat? Yes. Sorry.
Thank you. My name is Stein Erik Skotja from USIT Consulting. You mentioned using accessibility as a revenue driver, which is a concept that I really like. And I was wondering if you could put some more words on how you work with accessibility as a revenue driver. What KPIs have you connected to that, and how do you work with that?
Really good question. Thank you. I mean, we do not have clear KPIs with accessibility as a revenue driver. In that sense, it was more of an approach we held in our communication. However, now it's getting more and more mature. But I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but good usability is also good accessibility and the other way around. They're not living alone. Creatures. So it was more of a communication we held. We are not like having strict KPIs relating to it. And that is something we may be, I mean, 100%, we need to also uphold that we have a certain quality. And that could be maybe with KPIs or more testing, but that's something to be continued.
Thank you. In HTML, did the accessibility circle get a budget? You have now kind of implemented wording to the audience. Did the accessibility circle get a budget to actively get the different disciplines involved in the product development phase to also be trained in the subject matter? Were designers, developers, etc., formally trained in accessibility? And if so, how did that go?
Really? Wow. I love the questions. So a specific budget for the circle? No. And that's why I say, guys, this started as something you actually put. It was like side projects sound so informal, but it started something these people did in the midst of everything else that was going on. So we didn't get a certain budget to get developers in. They just heard rumors about us and be like, wow, maybe I can join you guys and get more mandate in my area that we need to do more checks in the code. So no budget in that sense. It was more people that just thought it was a good thing and also wanted to join forces and work on this together.
And do you think it will be a formal group or a formal budget, or will it kind of grow into something more steadily?
That is the goal. Hopefully, hopefully. Yeah, we did. We have done a lot of work, and we like just on the output created hopefully a lot of value. So hopefully, guys.
Yeah. Very good. So another one is, it's nice to have enablers, but how do you deal with the disablers? That is those in higher level management that don't seem to care.
I mean, to be honest, guys, that's always the case. And whatever you do, you will have people that thinks it's, okay. But I mean, also, I just want to be, a lot of people agreed. They're like, this is important. They understood it. I mean, if you have a heart, to be honest, this shouldn't be so complex to explain to anyone. So people understood it, but the hard thing was to more getting it prioritized in the midst of everything else that was going on. But in whatever you do, guys, you will have people that don't, like everyone will not just say, yay, and we were not shocked. That was just the regular process of getting something across.
But I think the question was, how do you deal with them?
How do you deal with them? You try again. So that's the thing, guys. When we did it with the circle at the beginning of stages, we're talking with stakeholders. We noticed that we didn't have enough knowledge of talking about fines, and we didn't have enough knowledge of talking about accessibility in a certain level. But that's why it's so good when the Accessibility Act happened. We jumped on that train because that was a bit more clear. And then we found 3 people that could be in more forums and drive it in that way. So answer the question, we convinced some of the disbelievers by being really clear with our communication, not giving up. So if one presentation went south, we had another one. If that went south, another one, until we get something like some kind of a output. And that's not always easy, I recognize, but for us,
persistence.
Yes, that's
okay.
the key
Do we
word.
have another question in the audience? Yes.
Yeah, hi, I'm Emma Kataya, accessible design specialist from Knowledge Solutions. And going back to the checklist.
Yes.
I was wondering, because what I've seen is that many times when training designers about accessibility, they have those checklists. They've read about accessibility, but when it comes to real understanding about it, why they need to do something, and especially when it goes complex, like it many times does, they don't have the knowledge actually to understand and maybe question these, for example, accordion tables, which are horrible, but very widely used. They don't have the knowledge or experience to question those, like, should I actually use this? And the checklists are usually very minimum. So maybe my question is, how do you go beyond the checklist, or do you have plans for it for the future?
Really good question. So we have a design system. And they also, when it comes to components, ensure that they are accessible. So some of the questions are already answered on that level. But then how you build your wireframe, depending on how you use the component, it's like a puzzle, right? If you're designing on this, then you need to check others. So as a designer, if you have like, okay, I don't know how to solve this, you have different forums you can go to. You can check with the accessibility circle, or you can check with the design system. When the checklist, this is the aim. Again, I don't have the clear answer. This is the hypothesis. If the checklist is not enough, you need to go to these forums and ask these questions. And that's why one of the goals with the circle is that we want to be the help people can rely on in that sense. But again, I mean, if we see that the checklist is not doing its job, we will change it. So I think we will have maybe a lot of problems or not problems at all. So we are to be investigated.
Okay, thank you. And another question is, so what is the end goal? Is it to fulfill the requirements, or to become the best e-commerce in the world?
I mean, I would say no to both. I mean, yeah, I'm becoming the best e-commerce, of course. Like if you work at a company, I would love to that H&M becomes the best. But I mean, in the midst of this, when it comes to accessibility, we just want to have a good experience for people that's disabled. To be honest, we're one of the big players. It's really important that they could actually buy a pair of jeans without issues. It's like the standard of things.
And I'm just thinking, do you benchmark? I mean, I guess you benchmark with loads of other e-commerce or other companies in many things, but in accessibility, do you benchmark? How was your experience?
Yeah, we have started. We know that IKEA is really good. Shout out to IKEA. So we have started looking into that as well, to other e-commerce sites. Like, how are they handling different topics? Are they using, some of them have like plugins right there that they just activate, and others are just having it within the code, and others are, and so we are looking at different e-commerce platforms as well.
Yeah, because I think just as we heard from the Android testing, I think also other kind of web accessibility experts find similar issues on e-commerce sites quite often. So kind of, I think learning from each other could also be a way forward. So did we have any more questions in the room? Yes. Please state your name.
Thank you, Eetu Komsit again. I'd like to link this your presentation to the previous panel we had, and ask, as a representative of a e-commerce company or company, what do you think? What would you need, or what would help from the supervising authority or lawmakers? You can say that you'd like to have bigger fines if that would help your case. You don't have to, but otherwise. Just a question. Thank you.
Oh, wow. Could I speak after? No, I can mostly speak from my own thoughts right now, not like the teams and so forth. The biggest value is that if it is that the regulations is clear. Make things clear, please. Because especially when it comes to, the Accessibility Act, we know that it's like, there's some areas that are gray zones. And I mean, if you guys have troubles to understand certain parts, of course we will. So the biggest value to us would that you help us make everything crystal clear, if that's possible, when it comes to the regulation. Yeah.
Okay, that's an easy task for Ito then to fix. I think we have another question in the back.
The question I have is,
Please state your name.
Mark Hackenden, Director of Digital Accessibility Compliance at ETS. Do you have any influence on procurement of tooling and products for development design? So one of the things that we've done is we've instituted a policy corporate-wide so that we actually require products we bring on board to be reviewed for accessibility. We ask for an ACR if they have one. And so that's sort of helping us shift away from tools that don't support accessibility in development or design toward ones that do. So have you thought about that, or are you doing that?
So are we looking out in the market for tools that could help us identify issues and become more accessible? Is that the question?
No, the actual, let's say, UI frameworks, design tools, like, a Figma tool, which isn't really great at accessibility. Are you looking for, kind of identify tools that will support designers and developers in building accessible platforms, not necessarily just the testing tools?
We are using Figma, and that was a Figma plugin the checklist is made of. So we are using existing tools to understand how we can leverage them and actually create additional value of checking. When it comes to design, again, it's a Figma plugin, but I think we can do millions of more stuff. And we are also having a platform where we usability test. For development, I mean, that's hard for me to answer. We are using some tools to check the code that also has some accessibility checks. But I'm not sure, did this answer your question? It didn't, right?
I think it was the continuous testing during, so that you help them while you're developing and not just testing afterwards. I think that's what I heard.
The question I had is, okay, so if your development team wants to bring in a new framework for development, do you have any influence to say, does that framework that you're thinking about support native accessibility? And so that's part of what we're trying to steer people toward, is looking to buy tooling that natively supports accessible development, as opposed to just picking a new shiny object that happens to be out there.
Now I got it. Thank you. Yes, and why we are in those conversations is because people in this accessibility circle, we have, for instance, engineer managers. What they do besides accessibility is being in these tool meetings. And as they're in the circle as well, they're like, but have you thought about accessibility? It comes up. Myself, I'm also in the conversation about tools, but I'm also in the circle. So when we're looking at new tools, have you thought about accessibility? So that's how we infuse accessibility. That's by having different kind of peoples in the circle, having that knowledge, and then they bring it up. So when we're buying a new tool, what more can this do? And then accessibility is one of the criteria. For instance, I can talk about every tool, but I can talk about few of the tools we have looked into. And I'm just seeing it more and more as we're becoming more mature.
Thank you very much, everyone. And thank you, Didem, for being here with us today, sharing your knowledge. And a round of applause again.
Thank you, guys.
I give you the hearts.
Thank you so much. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.